everyone, I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to another session of my Happiness Hour. My goal here is to help us all connect, inspire, and create. And we do this every Wednesday night, live here on Zoom with a new topic and a new speaker. On Tuesdays, I post the list of upcoming presentations to my Instagram page at Coz'n Linda and on my website at lindanickell.com. And that's where you'll find our previous sessions linked to YouTube. Erin Randall is here to keep us on track and is joining us from Montana. So say hello, Erin.
Hello, Erin.
Okay, so our guest this evening is Robert McGee, who's joining us from his ranch in Central Texas. Robert is a freelance commercial photographer that photographs everything from hotels, food, lifestyle, and travel. But here in Texas, he's sort of a cow whisperer, and you'll see what I mean when you visit his Instagram page at Roaming Camera. As an Instagram Texas host, Robert sees thousands of photos every month, and his many years as a professional photographer makes him qualified to help us tackle simple and complex composition. So tonight, Robert is going to discuss how to use compositional flow and creative storytelling to help you master composition. So, Robert, welcome back to the Happiness Hour community. And you were here, I guess, a couple of months ago when you did the food presentation. So, yeah, I'm finally not grossed. Yeah, I'm finally not grossed out at the little cooey or whatever that was that you shared with us.
See, it was educational.
It was educational, a little gross, yeah. But thank you for coming back.
That class,
I
got a lot of feedback from it. So I got a lot of people that asked some follow-up questions like after the class and stuff like that, people that tracked me down on Instagram and went through several food shots and stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was good information. Today I have something lined up. It's simple and complex composition. Composition is, composition and light and presentation of your photos is like the three most important things that you can, tackle when creating a piece of art. So composition, is putting it in the box, whether it be the picture frame or the camera or whatever, but putting your photograph either vertically or horizontally or even skewed or with a fisheye lens, it's a circle, with some fisheye lens. Composition is extremely important to grab the viewer, get their attention, pull them into the photo, hold them there, and either educate them, show them something they've never seen before, do things that inspire them emotionally. Some people can be brought to tears. Some people can be brought to joy, laughter, sorrow, deep remembrance of something way, way back, because photographs can last a long time. So composition to these photographs is really, in my opinion, like probably number one. I'm personally a fan of the complex composition. I really love tackling something that it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you put your camera on that, and but I see I see what you were seeing, and I get it now. It's wow, something you can delve into for a long time. And there's lots of I like Easter eggs. Those of you that watch movies and stuff, and I see the watch that guy's wearing. That was from season 1, and that kind of stuff is great to have in photos. Little things and gems that keep people talking about the image and keep you talking about the photo that's inspiring them, feeling, turning up their feelings and stuff. So with that, I'd kind of like to get started. I've been a photographer for 20 years. And so this collection is, I think some of the oldest ones are about 13, 14 years old. So I was definitely, when I was getting really started, they're taken all over the world. There's some local here in Texas, but it's all over the place. These are photos. I'm a professional photographer, but I've not made a lot of money for these photos I'm showing you. These are some of my gems that I am happy with, that I took and that I enjoy, and that display simple and complex compositions and lens work. So, without further ado, we're going to get our ducks in a row. Being simple.
One duck. Just one duck, right?
One duck. Just one. So, but being simple and clean, we have water, we have a duck. That's it. It's roughly composed in thirds. We can take it and, spin the little nautilus shell, and it's heavy at the top. It's also very kind of dark at the bottom. The cool thing about a simple photo is if you're working towards selling some images, and you're working towards pushing images through a channel, like somebody to buy them stock or something like that, the first people you're going to run into are graphic designers. And in doing this class, I came up with an image and said, send it to Linda. And she's like, it's hard to read the text. And that's like, yeah, but I really want to use that photo. But when you have a simple photo like this, such as, this is bare bones. This is a tiny piece of contrast of a duck against a huge background of water. It's very simple. It's got lots of copy space. Designers and graphic artists, people and everything love this kind of stuff and thrive for it. So it's like I can make a meme out of it. When memes became the big thing. Before that, doing graphic design work, doing mailers and posters and stuff that people want to drop their text on. These kind of photos, they dig up. Now here we have all of our ducks in a row. Of course, one has to be difficult and says, I'm not waiting in traffic. I'm getting to where I'm going. This is a lot more complex of a photo. It's got a lot more lines going on. It's also got a lot more ducks. It's a nice classic S-curve. S-curves, I love them. I love dragging somebody's eye. All the beats are all in a row and taking your eye, traveling through the image, kind of against the grain, because you also have these layers of the water, the ripples, that make a nice contrast to it, closing in around kind of as you travel through the photo. I picked this photo because I like that duck that's getting out and flying away. That's me. I like going against the grain and breaking the rules. And Jason Deckman, you have a great question with, when do you know when to break the rules? Whenever you can get away with it. Treat it like the Patriots. Whenever you can you get the advantage, and you can use it to your advantage to make a good photo. This really doesn't really break any rules per se. It's kind of framed in thirds. It's got a nice pattern and a wave through it and everything. But this is something a lot more complex than the previous ducks. Portraiture. Animal, person, doesn't matter. It's all the same. You're putting a face to something. This is a photograph that's taken with a 21mm lens. And I was at least able to get some of the horizon and some of the location. This was taken in Cabo San Lucas, which has that famous arch that you can go and, if you get lucky enough to get on the beach, you can actually kind of walk through it and stuff. It's really hard, but this location was really cool. It was kind of backlit, but actually I had a towel over my shoulder that was basically all white. So it acted like a reflector. So he got a nice, shine of light on his face. It's a very simple photo, simple depth of field. With a 21mm, I was very surprised. I was using this lens for the very first time. I've never used this lens. And a friend of mine actually owned it. And I said, hey, can I borrow that? I just want to try it out. I ended up using it and had it on one of the bodies of the camera. I ended up using that camera for the entire boat trip. I got whales, I got the arch, I got some fish shots, I got everything with that lens, and I was so happy with it. And one of the things I was happiest with was the depth of field from a wide angle lens. So I used it a lot, like f11 for some really sharp, crisp photos. And I used it very narrow for a photo like this, where I was able to get him in focus and have a nice blurry background and everything. And after I got home, I was like, I am really impressed with that lens. This is why. This is the dynamic photo that I got from that, all by changing my distance to subject about 6 feet. Now his whiskers, oops, are kind of small. Don't take up a lot in the frame in this one. Now his whiskers take up half the frame. It's a very dynamic photo. It has the classic S curve where his body is coming up and around and his face is pointing back into the negative space into the shot. His eye and snout are almost dead center in the photograph. But again, this is wide open. This is an f2.8 lens shot at f2.8. This is the full frame of the photo. It is not cropped. And I was able to get his eye and part of his mouth in focus. And what was nice, the whiskers that are coming into the camera actually really did a nice job of coming out of focus. It was even able to isolate a few drops of water coming off of his whiskers because of the fast shutter speed. This was probably taken, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I want to say probably close to 8,000th of a second. It's probably at the max, full daylight. I did have a polarizer, so it might be around 4,000th of a second. This is one of my favorite photos. It's dynamic, it's engaging, it gets your attention really fast. But this is the photo that made me change my lens lineup, and I switched from normal lens lineup that I have to a manual focus lens. I now have, of my lens lineup, I have 9 lenses, 7 of them are manual focus. This image here was manually focused. Here's another simple photo. Simplicity really did me well here because I'm shooting through glass. And the Monterey Bay Aquarium was really nice to me in allowing me to come in after hours without having too many people, because we were going to shoot some video. They were even nicer letting us come back the next night after we said, hey, can we put blackout curtains on all the exit signs and doors and everything, because you get reflections off of everything. So being simple, we were allowed to do that. But I did all my photography the first day. So being simple, I was able to finally narrow and not have to do any Photoshop or any editing on getting a nice, simple, clean shot. And all the jellyfish were facing down. Everybody's like, why don't you orient it the other way? And I said, well, that's the way the gravity works. And they face down for the most part. Here's the more complex photo. And there is a little bit of exit sign and a little bit of reflection that I'd like to get rid of in Photoshop, but that's going through some tentacles. It'd be really hard, but for the sake of this, it's good enough. This was a very complex photo. It was one of the elements we ended up doing a video of this where we had the tank moving and basically did this composition the next day. I didn't get to take any photos. We were too busy working with video, but we did have those exit signs and reflections all covered up with some blackouts, and we're able to get some really clean, really nice video. Just like the simplicity and copy space. This is another really good example of having really good copy space at the bottom. If this image were a lot sharper, and let's say if I shot this at like f11 or something, and pulled in, it would have a lot of the grasses coming up. It would still be out of focus and leading up into it, but it would be a lot more chaos in the bottom, like this. This photo here is Northern California, and it is nothing but chaos on a beach. I love this. I have actually converted this one to black and white and printed this one. I left it in color here. The black and white, it's really rich and dense with contrast. I thought the color would be really good here, but it's got good leading lines. Most of the sticks and pieces of lumber are carrying your eye into the photo. One even at the end comes back and jogs back in, taking your eye, darting it back into more logs that are pointing back out and everything. The only thing I really don't like, the hill, kind of cuts you off from the scene that's behind it, which is some of the good stuff. But I wanted to get, this was the best spot on the beach to get like this just mass of driftwood, where the driftwood catches in this particular spot. And I'm sure that if you go back here now, sadly, it might be a lot more plastic than it would be driftwood. This photo's good 15 years old. Okay, when it comes down to business, what are the 3 rules in business? Location, location, location. I love this photo because it's simple, it's clean, and it makes a big joke on the location, location, location. This is somebody's, you know, in the middle of the desert. You know, what you don't see is I'm actually right on the ocean. There's a fishing village that's behind me, you know, so there's a lot that you don't see. But this image takes away from that. It actually, you know, you look at this and go, what are those people doing? You know, why are they set up here? What are they, you know, it's centered. Here we are breaking the rules again. It's not framed in thirds, but it exaggerates its color so much, and the color scheme, I think it works well being centered. There's a couple things, you know, you got some oil stains. You can see where people have parked before, because it technically, this is the parking lot. This is one of the images that made me think of doing this class. And because the next image I'm going to show you was taken literally 200 yards away and 20 minutes after I took this one. This is one of my favorite all-time complex photos. I did a lot of shots here. A lot of them are very similar in composition. This one was my favorite. This one had everything working for me. Obviously the pelicans really stand out, you know, pointing. This image really carries your eye from right to left. You know, most of the people have their backs to the camera and are facing the left. So it naturally, you look at this and everything is pushing you off in that leftward direction. Thankfully, my assistant is over on the left playing with the birds that are over on that side and gathering a lot of attention from the people, which allowed me to come in behind and, you know, stand right by this. I'm actually kind of behind the truck that they're loading. These fish are, they get turned into cat food. So, but the guy that's got the yellow crate right in the center of the frame, he's tossing it to the gentleman on the left. They're loading it into the trucks. And I was able to actually get some shots from the other side where I'm actually standing in the shadow of that pillar and have him toss it. And I have a couple of them going, you know, where he's tossing it through the frame in the air, and then it has the pelicans behind him. It's not as dynamic as a shot as this one. This one has the boats in the harbor. It's got the birds flying in the background. It also has all the people doing their jobs, or in most cases, the guys sitting, not doing their jobs. They're just sitting around. So it is a good slice of life. Why did I take this? Like I said, I like complex, and it's a wide angle shot. And one of the things with a wide angle shot, it's kind of like a portrait. When you're taking a portrait and you have one person and you're taking, you know, that one person, and usually that one person might know what they're doing. They're a model or somebody that's professional or something, you know, they're going through all the poses and doing all the, you know, all the things that they need to do for their photo and everything. When you start adding people, you start adding some dynamic things that could be planned or unplanned, unexpected. You know, and like, you know, if you're taking a family photo and you got 10 people in the photo, there's always that, you know, one person that ruins, you know, everybody's just perfect. And it's like, oh gosh, Aunt Nancy, you had your eyes closed, you know, but maybe that's Aunt Nancy's thing. I love the TV show My Name is Earl. That's his thing. His eyes are always closed in every photograph. So, but my point to all this is that the more people you add, the more chance you have of ruining your photo. Well, a complex photo is that way too. It's like the wider you get, and it's like you say, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good. And then, no. Okay. So when you can get a complex photo and you can get it fast, you can see it fast, that's my challenge. I love to be able to make that complex photo work. And the way that this photo, everybody's body language, everybody that's actually doing something in this photo, all the angles of all the colors and everything, I really enjoyed this. This is one of my favorites. Never made a dime off this photo. It's just something I personally like. You know, when I showed this to travel clients and stuff, they were like, hell no, we're not publishing that. Something to think about when you want to make something simple. One of the times that I really like to work with, and yes, I am a cow whisperer, I like to work in the fog. Fog, its simplicity does two things. First of all, it sets a simple mood. And that mood is usually kind of dreary, maybe sometimes kind of ominous. So this is another one. It's got the trail that the cows make. It's got a leading line that comes with it and a single cow. Very simple, very clean, no dynamic lighting. Nothing dynamic going on that whatsoever. It allows me to maybe make some good contrast moves, with some of the flowers and stuff in the background. But for the most part, it's a very simple photo. Fog can also make things somewhat complex. I took this in Florida, and it was a dreary day. It was what we call a cancel day. It's a day where we have the lineup set up for us, and it's like, okay, outside. Oh no, that's something happens with this weather. But I took advantage of it. I saw this is taken very long. This is a 400 millimeter shot, and I saw this, and I was looking at the harbor that's at the end of the dock for this particular hotel, and I was like, the bird on every single pole out there, and I snapped this shot. And then I brought it into Photoshop, and I was like, check this out. And I said, is there a bird on every single pole out there? And I go, yeah. And he said, one of them's even got its wing spread on number 7. But there again, fog. Fog helps make that lighting simple, clean, very flat, not dynamic at all, hardly any shadows in it whatsoever. This shot, if it were bright, it'd be full of color, it'd be full of shadows, and it'd be, the water would have a different look to it. This is a picture of my assistant. This is Mitch Bergsma. He often is a subject of mine for good reason. This is a classic portrait, 85 millimeter. Which is a common portrait lens. And it's a great way to simplify your photo. It's a great way to isolate depth of field by only having a very shallow depth. This is probably shot at 2.8. Actually, this might be actually shot at 1.8 because this is old enough that it's shot with my older Canon lens. It's nicely framed. This is Mitch again, same lens. Now we've added some dynamics to it with the location. It's the same lens, but now it's really not a portrait about Mitch. It's more of a portrait about the bridge. But this is one thing that you can do to make your photos more complex, is using anything 85, 100, 150, 200 millimeter. You can compress photos. And when you get certain situations like a lot of lines, cables, power lines, trees, what have you, you can make a very complex photo by compressing your photo and using that longer lens. This is also taken at a much longer aperture. This is a f8, if not, so I think it's f7.1 actually, if I remember correctly. This is another simple one. I was actually in the back of a pickup, all heading out with a whole bunch of photographers. This is probably the oldest photo that I have in this lineup. This was taken in 2002 during a sandstorm in Dallas, Texas. We were having a photojournalist conference up in north side of Dallas when this storm came in, and it was right during an hour-long break, and everybody freakishly just was like, the end of the world is happening. Go look outside. And it was this crazy light to have all this sand and dust and garbage in the sky. And we were driving by. We were actually on the overpass. I was sitting in the back of the pickup, and I was like, I saw this pawn sign, but I saw it isolated against the sky, and it was just like, it matches. It's weird. It should be a blue sky, and so I snapped one from the back of the vehicle doing 60 miles an hour. And I got back and I was like, oh wow, it's sharp. Lucky me. I came back and popped this into Photoshop, with everybody at the conference, and everybody's like, that's the best sandstorm photo. That's awesome. It's so cool. But it's so simple, clean, framed in thirds. But it has the sky gives it that, it looks fake. there's something not right there. Uh-oh. I did something. There we go. There's another one. Now this one's not framed in thirds. Sometimes I go a little bit too extreme and I'll just, put something in the very, very, very corner. You got to be careful doing that. In my notes here, I'm seeing, I was saying I was going to cross off some notes. One of the things that I want to say about, when you're doing compositions, especially something that's complex, make sure it's not too complex, and make sure that if you are doing some work and you're planning on selling it, make sure to try to frame loose. By framing loose, meaning like a 2x3 image is a 4x6. A 4x6 is an 8x12. If you're going to have somebody that's going to print an 8x10, that's got 2 inches cut off of one end. It can be a one at the top and one at the bottom, that's fine, but you're going to lose 2 inches off a photo. Well, if you're framing tight, especially portraits, you're going to start cutting into people's heads. You might cut off feet. So as a warning, like if you are doing something where you know that your art may be manipulated by way of cropping, make sure to frame loose. This was one where if you got, you could crop some stuff off the left, it'd be fine. You could crop the square, it still has the same dynamic. This is shot at El Correas Hotel, and it was really hard to get good photography there. When you watch the movie Kill Bill and you see, that's a pretty cool hotel. Yeah, it is. It's also really hard to get some really cool shots there. So this is one that I came away with that I really liked, and didn't really have anything to put in my portfolio from there as much, but I really enjoyed this one here. And this one got a lot of play. I shot this 16 years ago. I used to belong to PhotoSig and a couple other photo websites, and everybody always really enjoyed this one. It's clean, very, very simple. Textured. This is one of those ones that, like I said, if you're turning a meme into something, or use this as a background or something like that, it's almost like it's a blank canvas or a blank blue canvas. This is one of my favorites. This is also another very old image. This is shot in Barra, which is south of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and the hotel and the building next to it are mirror images of each other. They're the same building, just one is a building people live in, the other one is a hotel, but they're the exact same building. So this was shot from my balcony, shooting over there and shooting their balcony. I like this one because of the color. Getting it back into Photoshop, I was like, something's not right with the color balance. Something's really jukey. And just realized it's just the windows. They're just tinted really green. If you look at the gentleman that's on the kind of the center balcony, a little bit framed in thirds on the right, he's got nice tan arms. He's wearing a white t-shirt. Yeah, so I was like, okay, so my eyes aren't deceiving me. I'm not seeing green here. This is another one, very complex, but tells a story. He's the only person on his balcony. So he's simple, yet complex. Aerial photography. Aerial photography, when I do a lot of aerial stuff, I'm always looking for the simple photograph. Something that carries my point of view, that I'm in the air and then I'm showcasing something from that. Nowadays, everybody's got drones. Everybody's, flying their DJI Mavics and, other stuff, which, they're flying the camera. They're not in it. They're not seeing it. They can't look around and, they're just flying a camera. When I shoot, I'm not personally a drone pilot. My assistant Mitch is, so he's the guy behind the, flying that and everything. I still prefer to do everything while in the helicopter. I love it. It's a great, feeling of wind and heights. Let's not forget the heights, because when I'm flying in the helicopter, the doors are off. So this one is I am a farmer. I do drive a tractor. So this one kind of hit me. I was like, that guy's got a lot of work to do. He looks like he's actually driving a seed drill. That land is already plowed. He's just going back over it again, planting seed now with a seed drill. But it gives an idea of what this farmer's work is like. You know, it's pretty boring driving that tractor back and forth across that much. And the photo doesn't do it justification. There's a lot more dirt. I really could have really could have shot this at a wider angle. But it gives you a feeling of when you're flying in a helicopter or you are flying a drone, looking for those simple photographs that tell a big story and everything. Those kind of photographs go a long way. This is one of my all-time favorite photos and one of my all-time favorite type of techniques to dynamically block you from part of the story. You can get somebody to look at a photograph. You could get somebody to look at a photograph and then they, wait, whoa, is there a glacier behind there? Whoa, But I'm taking a subject, the two big trees, and I'm telling their story of where they live next to this huge glacier, which just happens to be in the background. Now, if you take the glacier out of this picture, it's just a picture of two trees with some really nice, pretty clouds. It's still a good picture and everything. It adds a nice layer of the location of where I'm at. And, quite frankly, when I was walking back and I saw this, I was just like, I actually, set the camera down, put it aside for just a little bit and just kind of enjoyed this scene before stepping back and, getting a picture of these trees, in this magical, location. These trees are big, they're old. I mean, they're probably older than me. I'm almost 50. So I was just in awe. I was like, man, at one point in time, this glacier covered this area. So it is receded back and now these trees were allowed to be in their spot. This is also taken in March. Some of the trees are changing colors, which March would be our spring. This is taken in South America. This is Argentina in a place called Perito Moreno. It's probably one of the best glaciers if you want to photograph to get to. Getting to Argentina, yeah, that kind of pain. You can go to Alaska and stuff and you can see some really cool glaciers, but they let you walk on this glacier. We actually had a nice hike, and at the end of the hike, they actually chink off some, thousands of year old ice, put it in a glass of bourbon for you, and you can drink some 10,000, 20,000 year old ice. It's a great trip. I highly recommend it. This is a really good example when a complex photo needs to be a simple photo. Obviously, I would love to have this shot without the tractors and the cars and the building and the hay, and have him just out in the middle of, someplace like, kind of like where that tractor was plowing across. That would have been, something like that with the mountains in the back. Just him, horses, mountain. Simplified. I would love that. I didn't get that chance. And, time constraints and stuff, with the way our schedule was going. Usually this was on a hotel assignment and everything. And I saw it happening, and I was like, I had to get a couple of those. It still works. It's not like I'm displeased with it or anything. It still tells the story. I love these horses. I love the way that they are framed in. They are here. I'm breaking rules. I'm centered. Unless you want to count the guys being in thirds. But, it funnels in. Both of the roof lines both channel through the mountains, which the mountains are beautifully lit. Oh, I wish I'd gotten this, anyway. Oh. And we're done.
I think I saw one question. Let me go back.
Oh my gosh, that's not enough.
I know. I think that they were expecting a few more photos. You kind of flew through those pretty quickly.
I did. I wanted to fly through them, and I wanted to just kind of just talk about each one and hopefully leave time.
Yeah.
At the end. This isn't a Photoshop seminar. I'm not displaying anything. I'm just kind of showcasing some photos, talking about some rules, showing the differences between some complex and some simple photos. But yeah, your questions are really going to be really
Yeah, so David Wilson wanted to ask, do you prefer a shallow depth of field to blur most of the image?
That's a loaded question, my friend.
Good, you got plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay, well, plenty of, okay. It's all going to depend. In my hindsight, it's one of those shallow or F11 or F 16. It's one or the other for me anyway. I'm either tack sharp, make that stuff as sharp as you can. Do something that's and when I am complex doing, I'm in the sharper regions. If I want to make things simple and it's simplified, yes, I will be shallow with using the focus to force my subject. you know, Instagram is full of it. Like what was it, 2018? They said red is the color of Instagram, and it's like, yeah, way to force your subject. That red umbrella with that all green back. Yeah, okay. You're just forcing the subject. Same thing with focus. When you're taking and doing a shallow depth of field, and say like the picture of Mitch where he's just in the water, just him is in focus. Yeah, I'm just forcing the subject. I'm doing it by framing him in, and I'm also doing it by forcing the focus only on him. So it's one of those, how do you want to treat your photos? Do you want everybody to see, broken glass, sharp as tack, or do you want to force your subject? So it's going to go back and forth. At least for me, it is anyway. I mean, macro photography is a great one. We had that demonstration. I mean, she was wonderful with her, how simple her stuff was. She's like, oh, I'm wide open almost all the time. And it's like that, man, that's great.
So John Fishers wants to know, I know that, okay, he says, I know that pain of what could have been, in quotes, Rob. To what extent do you simplify a photo that is too complex or busy, and then either in the field or in post? Was that
Definitely do it in the field because I am not much of a post processor. If I don't get it in camera, I'm pretty much done. But okay, I'm a prime lens user. Okay, I had my whole bag in the car on that Pelican shot, that very complex, and I chose to grab one lens. I could have grabbed the 2470 and been safe and just covered my butt, but I grabbed the 24 millimeter tilt shift. I knew I was shooting scenics. I knew I was shooting stuff that was going to require a lot of scenery. I knew I wanted to show the scene. I knew I wanted to show the element, the people, what was going on. So I knew I was going to go wide, and I knew that I could be versatile with a 24 tilt. I could have done some wonky tilts and some shifts and stuff like that. But for the most part, I grabbed it because it was a wide angle. Now, let's say I wanted to just get the guy just tossing the buckets and do a nice cool like motion. Yeah, grabbing, having the 2470, you got a 70, 50 to 70 millimeter right there on that. That's a great way to isolate. So, you see him, this guy's chucking like 30 buckets, right? Well, no, nothing that says you can't grab a wide angle shot. If he's still chucking buckets, just let me get one, just isolate him, and, zoom that thing out and just, shoot one at 50, 70 millimeter, maybe, ghost blur it, maybe drag the shutter, maybe get some motion blur or something like that in there, or shoot them tack sharp, on a sunny day, with people, doing stuff like that, there's no slouch that you can't, crank that thing to F28, F4, something fast, and get a nice, shallow depth of field, which there again simplifies your photo. If you want to force that guy tossing those buckets, it was cool. It would have been a great shot. It's not something I wanted to do the whole scene and chucking the buckets and everything. So I went for the complex. But if I wanted to go that other route, it would have been very easy, and all I had to do, either carry a separate body with separate lens or, zoom lens. I do have a zoom lens. It is the lens I use on helicopters because I don't want to be switching bodies on a helicopter. So, my 2470, that's my helicopter lens. I mean, it's almost pretty darn close to exclusive. I have 9 lenses. 8 of them seven of them are below 100 millimeter. So that gives you an idea of like how much, I'm a wide angle guy. I have a 50 and an 85, and then the rest are below that. I have an 18, 24, 15, 15 fish. I think that's it.
Say 85. Yeah.
I have
Okay.
85 and 50.
Okay.
So those are the two that are between the 50 and the 100. I have a 100 millimeter macro, and then I have my 100 400. So I have one telephoto lens that's the big. It's 100 to 400. I use that one. I do use that one a lot.
Okay. Terry Kessler, I think it's a she, says, I like the comment about loose framing. Is that something you said?
Yes,
Okay.
when you are working for somebody, and the last thing you want to hear is you got a photo that's too tight. It was somebody might have an idea in their head, but they're already going to use your photo that they're buying from you to do with it. Okay, and like I said, a 2x3 times 2 is a 4x6, times 4 is 8x12. If what you're going to be shooting is going to be converted into an 8x10, you're losing 2 inches. Now, it could be 2 inches off of one total side or one between the two, but 2 inches are coming off that sucker one way or the other. When you're framed tight, and I was bad, especially doing digital. I want to fill that frame with as many pixels as I can. But you get into that situation where, hey, we're using Instagram. We used to be all square. So, it wasn't, now it's very, very vertically oriented. And I'm very guilty of that too. But I used to shoot just horizontal, and I just would crop my ends. That's a lot more generous crop though, than an 8x10. You're only losing an inch on each side. So when somebody has an idea in their head that, hey, we're going to shoot for magazine cover, well, magazine covers are vertically oriented and usually cropped. So, and magazine covers love the extra copy spaces and stuff all the way around it. We were kind of making some stuff for this class, and I was picking out some photos and stuff, and the stuff with negative space on it is an area where they can fill in their text and their stories and their, pick this magazine, because we're going to tell you this story and stuff. So it's got all the teasers and stuff, basically loaded on top of your image. So framing loose. The same for portrait photography. If you got, portrait of, Betty, and, she's pregnant and she wants a maternity photo, but I want to put it in 8x10 and put it on my, wherever, that's going to get cropped. So make sure not to put her head all the way at the top. Don't put her, feet all the way at the bottom. Frame loose, leave some space so that I get it. You want to fill the pixel, get all the pixels you can, but at the same time, you got to don't go too tight.
So to follow up with that, do you focus more on capturing what you want in the frame when you take the picture, or are you relying on cropping after? And she says, I assume with practice you get better at the initial picture, but
you get better at the initial picture. Every single picture I showed you today was an uncropped photo.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
those are
filling the frame.
As they are seen. That is a standard 2x3 taken with a digital 35 millimeter camera, full frame. I did crop for Instagram, but for the most sake, like now I'm forced to crop on Instagram because I shoot, like if I'm shooting something and I am shooting something directly where I know I'm going to load it on Instagram, I did purposely shoot vertical.
Okay.
And which it's like it actually ends up like an 8x10. I think it's about 2 inches that get cropped off of it for Instagram. You can load a border on it, and so that you're loading the full 2x3 image, and it'll have the border on it, of course, which makes.
Karen Riley wants to know, on the S curve, can the S go in any direction? Does it matter?
Oh, absolutely, it could go in any direction. I mean, and the S curve, it's the same as those leading lines. The photos that I was trying to demonstrate today was like taking your eye and carrying it in a certain direction, whether it be in the photo, across the photo or in a certain direction. And like I said, I like complex photos. Man, if I could take your eye one way and then take it, I will. I will, I will do all kinds of stuff like that. And due to time constraints and everything, I picked out 20 so I could talk about some photos and then answer a bunch of questions. I mean, man, I got so many photos where I got so much stuff. I got fallen logs across waterfalls, that stuff that goes all different ways. You can carry it as long as it tells the story, in any direction. It doesn't have, if you're left-handed and you want to go left instead of being right-handed going right, the sky's the limit.
Composition's really important. And some people just naturally have it, and some people need to learn it. And this was a good opportunity to kind of look at a different way at coming at it. So I want to thank you for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
So back in June, Sherry Hunt was here, and she taught us how to, the fundamentals of Milky Way hunting. And if you haven't seen, or if you're into Milky Way or astrophotography, and you haven't seen that session and you're just getting started, go look on YouTube. You just need to follow the link from my website, lindanickell.com, to Happiness Hour. And that's going to take you to that session, as well as others that you might have missed. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to build on that session. So next week, our guest is Kenneth LaRose, and he's going to present take your astrophotography to the next level. And Kenny's going to share his tips on scouting for interesting locations and how to compose perfect compositions of the Milky Way. He's also going to discuss advanced post-processing techniques such as blue hour, blending, compositing, and image stacking to help you create out of this world images. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And until next Wednesday, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again next week.